You are watching the world 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bava. An action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. Multiple people are being treated for burn injuries after a man started setting people on fire at a mall in Colorado. The FBI calls it a targeted terror attack, but police say it's too early to say that or speculate on the motive. A Ukrainian drone attack has destroyed more than 40 Russian planes deep in the country's territory. This is what Ukraine's security service has said. While Moscow pounded Ukraine with missiles and drones just hours before a new round of direct peace talks in Istanbul. Australia's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence, Richard Marles, will travel to India as part of his multi-nation tour to Asia. The celebration of PSG fans after their club's victory in the Champions League final took a tragic turn on Sunday when two people were killed following clashes with the police in France. And a new drug could stop some breast cancer tumors from using hormones to grow. This is what a trial has found. A big focus at the moment, the FBI says it is investigating a targeted terror attack in Colorado after a man reportedly threw petrol bombs at a pro-Israel event. The FBI boss, Kash Patel, has said that agents were on the scene and working with local law enforcement in Boulder, but witnesses have told US media that the attacker threw Molotov cocktails at people doing a walk to remember Israeli hostages in Gaza. I can inform you at the moment that a male suspect is in custody. Local police say there were multiple victims and a large part of the downtown area around Pearl Street has now been cordoned off. You must note that Boulder's police chief, meanwhile, has said it was too early to call this a terror attack. However, Colorado's governor did use those words. We have a reaction from the Boulder police lined up for you. Listen in.
The initial response by our officers, we were on scene very quickly. When we arrived, we encountered multiple victims that were injured with injuries consistent with burns and other injuries. While our officers and paramedics and fire department personnel got those victims quickly to the hospital, our officers were pointed out, a suspect was pointed out to our officers on the scene. Our officers immediately encountered that suspect who was taken into custody without incident.
My colleague Mohammed Ghazali has been tracking the latest details for us. He joins us live at the moment. Ghazali, as we've discussed, it's a stark revelation that the fact that this is a repeated situation coming up in the US, a man now setting people on fire in Colorado?
Yeah, a highly condemnable incident, and even the United States president has been briefed about the incident, and this was particularly Jewish protesters who had gathered for peacefully protesting and demanding Hamas to release the Israeli hostages who have been held captive for more than a year and a half. And that is when this particular accused, who started shouting "Free Palestine" as per the eyewitnesses, he started throwing the petrol bombs towards the protesters, leading to the injuries to 6 to 7 people, some of them moderately injured and some of them are seriously injured over there. As of now, the identity of the victim has not been officially confirmed, but reports and people close to those who are close to the administration claim that perhaps he is an Arab from Egypt or Kuwait who entered into the United States a couple of years ago on some other kind of visa, which doesn't allow you to permanently settle in the US. And the chants for bringing more stricter laws for immigrants is growing louder among those people who are close to administration after reports surfaced that this particular accused is an immigrant. But that is not officially confirmed, but highly condemnable incident considering the fact that just a couple of weeks ago we had 2 diplomats who were killed outside US Embassy.
Ghazali, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the latest on what's happening in the US. As Ghazali is mentioning, the identity of the victim hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but we'll of course track the latest details for you. With that, let's turn our attention to the other big story we're tracking. A Ukrainian drone attack destroyed more than 40 Russian planes deep inside the country's territory. Ukraine's security service has said, while Moscow pounded Ukraine with missiles and drones just hours before a new round of direct peace talks in Istanbul. The so-called spiderweb operation carried out by Ukraine's SBU security service saw drones smuggle thousands of kilometers into Russian territory using lorries before they were unleashed to destroy the aircraft. This is what the SBU has said. Russia has confirmed that Ukraine attacked airfields across 5 regions, causing several aircraft to catch fire. Dasha Chernyshova has the latest for us from Moscow, but before that, listen in to what Mr. Zelensky has to say.
Щойно була доповідь голови Служби безпеки України Василя Малюка. Блискуча операція проведена на території ворога виключно проти військових цілей, проти саме тієї техніки, яка використовувалась в ударах проти України. Дуже відчутні втрати Росії і абсолютно справедливі, заслужені їхні втрати. Дякую Службі безпеки, особисто генералу Малюку, також всім, хто був задіяний в операції. Готували операцію більш ніж 1,5 роки. Планування, організація, всі деталі були ідеально підготовлені.
A day ahead of the second round of direct talks between Moscow and Kyiv in Istanbul, 2 Russian regions came under a major drone attack. The governor of a Siberian city of Irkutsk confirmed that remote piloted aircraft attacked a military unit. The drones were flying out from the truck parked on the road. A similar attack was reported in the Arctic city of Murmansk. In Russia's border regions of Kursk and Bryansk, 2 bridges have collapsed within hours overnight. In Bryansk, a bridge collapsed onto a train, killing at least 7 people and injuring more than 70, including at least 3 children. Up to 400 people were on board, many of them children. In Kursk, another bridge collapsed, derailing a freight train. The driver was injured. Senior Russian lawmakers say the attacks aim to complicate talks in Istanbul. Meanwhile, Russian delegation is reported to have departed for Turkey, where Moscow hopes to discuss its draft peace memorandum, as well as documents on possible ceasefire. Dasha Chernyshova, NDTV, Moscow.
Staggering footage from a Ukrainian drone of an airbase under attack in Belaya in the Irkutsk region of Russia. Belaya lies a whopping 4,300 kilometers east of the Ukraine-Russia front line. This footage, though, of another attack is the clearest of the damage on the ground. This is the flight line at the Olenia airbase. Several Tu-95 bombers are on fire. The footage is filmed from a Ukrainian drone. Olenia, located to the far north, is 2,000 kilometers from the Russia-Ukraine battlefront. How exactly did this happen? These pictures provide a clue. Ukraine Security Service conducted the operations called Spiderweb after more than a year of planning them. Drones were smuggled into Russia. These were hidden in mobile wooden sheds which were placed on cargo trucks. This video shows what happened at the chosen time. The roofs opened remotely, the drones flew off, targeting military airfields and aircraft. Ukraine claims that this attack, one among several on Russian air bases today, has resulted in 40 Russian aircraft being destroyed on the ground. Among them Tu-95, Tu-160 and Tu-22M bombers, the mainstay of the Russian Air Force. The attacks come just a day ahead of scheduled talks between Russia and Ukraine. No clarity at the moment on what will happen now to the peace process. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Well, this massive Ukrainian drone strike on parked Russian jets, many say has offered a glimpse into the future of war. But Sunday's audacious operation took more than a year to plan. This is what the Financial Times is reporting, and hit more than 40 aircraft at 4 fields deep inside Russia. Dubbed Russia's Pearl Harbor by pro-Moscow military bloggers, The attack reflects the prevalence of low-end artificial intelligence-enabled drone tech, and all this is happening just hours before a new round of direct peace talks in Istanbul. For an expert's view on the matter, let's go across to Washington, D.C. Alison Federica joins us live at the moment. Alison, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for making time for us and joining us on NDTV. Now, how might these latest moves actually reshape Moscow's air power capabilities and also the military calculus going forward?
So the big thing that this latest move will do is give Kyiv a little bit more leverage in these negotiations that they're going to be entering into tomorrow, or today, I guess, in your time zone. Yes. The military calculus, the issue for Russia, I think, is going to be more of a domestic security issue of how did this happen? And that is, I think, the immediate military impact of what type of intelligence failure, what type of security failures existed such that Ukraine was capable of carrying out an attack, especially since there was an entire year worth of planning to get to this point in time. Longer term, of course, rebuilding their Air Force capabilities is going to be quite the task. It's going to be very expensive. And this is coming at a time where they've already spent a lot of money on military development and manpower, given that they have been fighting in Ukraine for such a long time.
Right. Alison, the timing of the drone attacks, meanwhile, on the eve of Ukraine-Russia peace talks in Istanbul, many say it is striking, but do you see this as a pressure tactic or a potential spoiler to negotiations?
I don't think it's going to be a spoiler to negotiations because both sides face heavy constraints in terms of how long can they keep on fighting. The runway for both countries is getting shorter and shorter, so it really is coming down to what kind of deal can we get. I think that Ukraine's move right now with this attack is meant to rattle Russia, to try to project a level of strength and intimidation that we haven't really seen from Ukraine to this point in time. I would also say that right before these strikes occurred in Russian territory, there were also Russian strikes in Ukraine against various Ukrainian targets as well. So I think both sides are trying to demonstrate to the other that they can militarily keep on going if talks fail, and that they're prepared to do that, and that they're trying to show that they can put more damage onto their enemy in an attempt to try to get a better space in negotiation and have some sort of leverage or upper hand on the other.
Right. Meanwhile, many are also wondering if AI-powered drones can now fly long distances, recognize targets, strike without radio guidance. What's the plan? How NATO and countries in Asia should actually recalibrate their defense postures? That's something we'll be keeping a close eye on. But Alison, thank you so much for making time for us and joining us on NDTV.
So one of the big things that we have to remember is the technology is rapidly changing. And in terms of what defense capabilities are needed to combat drones, is going to be very different than what is needed for, say, a fighter jet or something like that. In the case of the Russian attack, these drones were actually in Russian territory, so the distance was not quite as long. But in terms of satellite capabilities, air protection, air radar defenses, all of those things are going to be much more important moving forward because that's how you're going to take out the drones. That's how you're going to detect them coming in.
Well, Alison, we'll keep in touch with you for regular updates. Thanks so much for making time for us. And moving our attention now to home ground, Australia's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence Richard Marles will be in India and also travel to Sri Lanka, the Maldives and Indonesia from the 2nd until the 5th of June for high-level meetings. According to the Australian government, the visit to India coincides with the 5th anniversary of Australia and India's comprehensive strategic partnership, which underpins our relationship and shared vision for the Indian Ocean as well. And with that, let's turn our attention now to France, where 2 people are dead and nearly 560 have been arrested after disorder broke out following PSG's victory in the Champions League final. A 17-year-old boy was stabbed to death, and a man in his 20s was hit by a car while riding a scooter during these celebrations. And meanwhile, world champion D. Gukesh secured a statement victory in the 6th round of Norway Chess 2025, defeating former world champion Magnus Carlsen in classical time control for the first time in his career. The Indian teenager, playing with the white pieces, held firm under pressure and capitalized on a rare blunder by the 34-year-old Norwegian Grandmaster in the endgame, converting it into what you can imagine was a memorable win.
Oh my God.
Switching tracks, Indigo has actually announced that it will be placing a firm order for another 30 wide-body Airbus A350-900 aircraft, taking its total order size to 60 of these long-range jets to fuel its international ambitions. So basically, in April last year, Indigo had actually announced a firm order for 30 A350-900 aircraft, along with purchase options for another 70 planes of the A350 family. But on Sunday, the airline and the European aerospace major Airbus, they've inked an agreement to convert 30 of those options into firm orders. Slipping into a quick commercial break, news and updates continue on the other side in a moment. Do stay tuned.
Hello and welcome. We have a very special guest with us here today on the NDTV network for an exclusive interview. It's the Second Lady of the United States, Ms. Usha Vance. Ms. Vance, NDTV की दर्शकों की तरफ से आपको नमस्कार. You know, there's a lot of curiosity about what's going on in your kitchen. Everyone is most interested because the Vice President himself has said that he was a meat and potatoes man until he met you, and then your mother taught him how to cook. So now everyone wants to know, what is it that he cooks for you?
Well, he's very experimental. He'll try anything. So he's done everything from chana masala to, has been making a specialty of desserts recently. So our children especially enjoy that.
In your home, what does a traditional Indian meal look like?
Well, my family is from Andhra Pradesh. And
they have the most amazing cuisine.
Yes, I think so. Although we've been enjoying the food of other areas as well while we're here. So my mother and grandmother are both excellent cooks, and my father too actually makes very good dosa, pasaratu, things like that. So, I mean, I think it looks exactly like what you might imagine. You know, sometimes it's very simple and it's sambar and rice and some sort of kura. Sometimes it's a little more complicated, and my mom pulls out all the stops and makes pulao or something, or a few dishes. But it's a vegetarian household, so that usually defines it.
And the Andhra cuisine is famous for its chutneys. Do you manage to get all the ingredients together there?
I am not a preparer of chutneys, but my grandmother makes wonderful chutneys, and I think she manages to figure it all out. She gets the ingredients at the Indian stores near us.
Well, that's wonderful. You know, there was something else that I was reading about you, and the fact that at your wedding, you had a traditional Indian ceremony, and you also had a traditional American ceremony. And it's a beautiful metaphor for the way people across the globe are coming together culturally. And was that very important to you?
Well, it was very important. We got married in Kentucky, which is the state where my husband's family was from, but we had so many people fly from all over the world, including India. And so both our guest list and the ceremonies were sort of a representation of our very different backgrounds coming together. And you know, my parents, of course, were married in a traditional Hindu ceremony. And so when I imagined weddings and what that might look like, I imagined the pictures that I'd seen of them.
But what did you and the Vice President like, especially at the Amur Fort?
Well, I mean, obviously the architecture is spectacular, and we really enjoyed seeing the mix of cultures that were brought in when they were building it in the first instance. So you see the Persian influence, and of course you see elements of Hinduism with the lotus references, and it was just a really interesting representation of the position that the Mughal Empire had at the time and the way that they were sort of projecting themselves. So it was a fascinating study in history.
Back, let's take you to Canada now, where more than 25,000 residents in 3 provinces have been evacuated as dozens of wildfires remain active and affect the air quality in parts of Canada and also the US. According to officials in some parts of the US, the air quality reached unhealthy levels on Sunday. But Maha Siddiqui has been tracking the latest as far as Canada is concerned. She joins us live at the moment. Maha, take us through the worst impacted areas, also the latest forecast.
Parmeshwar, dramatic visuals are coming in from Manitoba, where we are seeing the skies turning orange, smoke billowing out, and there is a great threat at this moment to the population in that area. That is why 17,000 people have been evacuated in Manitoba, the province of Manitoba. What is a big concern and worry at the moment is that the wildfires that are raging in one particular area in Manitoba are very close to the capital of the province, which is Winnipeg. And that remains a cause of concern, because if the wildfires spread as they are at the moment, then they could be very close to the urban infrastructure, which is definitely a matter of great concern for Manitoba. The plumes of smoke that we have been seeing billowing out and the pictures that are coming in, which are extremely dramatic and worrying, the pollution there is drifting now across the border to the US, also to the states that are just down south of Manitoba. In North Dakota, we have seen the pollution levels go up as well. Of course, the other neighboring states or neighboring provinces in Canada are also witnessing similar situation of pollution because of the wildfires. But at the moment, the concern is about the population, that they should be moved to places that are safe. And that is why we have seen this large-scale evacuation of 17,000 people.
Maha, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the lowdown. Do stay safe. We will revert to you for regular updates. With that, let's turn our attention now to the neighborhood, to Bangladesh, where prosecutors with the International Crimes Tribunal have formally charged former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina with crimes against humanity, alleging her role in ordering mass killings during a nationwide uprising in July. This is what local media is saying. The charges submitted by Chief Prosecutor Muhammad Tajul Islam and his team accuse Hasina of being the chief instigator behind the violent crackdown that unfolded during the July and August unrest. You must note that Sheikh Hasina's trial will continue today as well. Meanwhile, in staying with updates from Bangladesh, you must also note that the country has restored the registration of the largest Islamist party, allowing it to take part in elections more than a decade after it was removed under the now overthrown government. The Supreme Court overturned a cancellation of Jamaat-e-Islami's registration, allowing it to be formally listed as a political party with the Election Commission. For all that's happening in Bangladesh, let's go across to my colleague Saurabh Gupta, who's been tracking all the finer developments. Saurabh, as far as the latest decision on Sheikh Hasina is concerned, we're given to understand that the trial continues today as well. And meanwhile, the decision on the country's largest Muslim party has now paved the way for them to participate in the next general election.
That's right. The Jamaat is a hardline Islamic party, and therefore, it has a history in Bangladesh. And one of the reasons is that many took offense to the Jamaat is because of the fact that the Jamaat had supported Pakistan in the 1971 Liberation War. However, it was banned later by the Sheikh Hasina government. That ban had been overturned after Muhammad Yunus took charge. Now, the implications of the Jamaat perhaps contesting elections, and if it has a considerable say in the political sort of dispensation in Bangladesh, then there are implications for the neighborhood, and by neighborhood I also mean India. Now, the Jamaat in the past has taken an anti-India stance. It has also in the past collaborated with China, demanding an independent Rohingya state in the Rakhine state of Myanmar, and that has geopolitical implications for India, including several high-profile strategic initiatives that India has undertaken in the region. So obviously these are worries. Now, this is not the first time that Jamaat will be in politics. Earlier it has been in politics. It has in fact been an ally of the BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. And at that time too, relations between India and Bangladesh were not really great. The Jamaat, of course, has historically been opposed to India. It's been a pro-Pakistan organization. In fact, the critics of Muhammad Yunus have accused him of using the support of the Jamaat, who have used the students as a front, to cling on to power. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party has demanded elections by December. Yunus, of course, has given a vague timeline. But in all of this, the Jamaat getting its registration back paves the way for this organization to register itself with the Election Commission and possibly contest elections when these elections take place in Bangladesh.
Saurabh, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the lowdown. Moving on, a new drug could stop some breast cancer tumors from using hormones to grow. This is what a trial has found. In fact, results from the Serena-6 trial carried out with the Institute of Cancer Research in London suggest that using camizestrant could actually help patients stay well longer and delay the need for chemotherapy. According to Cancer Research UK, the drug works by blocking estrogen from getting into the breast cancer cell, which researchers hope can then stop or slow the growth of cancer. Breast cancer patients given the drug in this trial reduced their chances of the disease progressing by 52% compared to standard therapies. And in other news, China's government has accused the US's Pete Hegseth of trying to sow division in the Asia-Pacific region over a speech at a Singapore Defense Conference where he warned that China was a potentially imminent threat. On Saturday, Mr. Hegseth said that China was credibly preparing to potentially use military force to alter the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific and was rehearsing for the real deal of invading Taiwan. China is now furious. Meanwhile, one of India's best-known wildlife conservationists, Valmik Thapar, has died at his home in Delhi at the age of 73. Dubbed India's Tiger Man, Mr. Thapar dedicated 5 decades of his life to reviving the big cat's dwindling population. In fact, many close to him will tell you that life had questions but no answers. Then the jungle found him. Condolences have poured in from all quarters for the Tiger Man, a name he rightfully earned. Thank you, as always, for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Bomin Irani, your acting career begins at a very young age of 41. And so usse pehle it was photography. You had captured India through the lens of a photographer, and then you worked in the hospitality sector as well. Before that. So while you were, dabbling between so many roles, which one is it, and when was it that you realized that it is acting?
I think when I was very young, my love was always cinema, actually. I used to watch all kinds of movies even at a very young age. Very young, and a lot of people used to wonder why I would watch movies that were not part of my pay grade. Why am I watching these kind of movies? Not because they were adult or they were, I just loved the movies. And my mother encouraged me to watch movies. I understood the world, humanity, the human condition, art, music, drama, lyrics, everything. Lighting, I love lighting. So my thing was I always wanted to be a director, actually. Strangely. I never saw myself in movies, but I love to act. But just chronologically to take you through it all, I started in the hospitality business. I was a waiter at the Taj for a couple of years. And then I worked at a family wafer shop for 14 years. Then took up photography. While I was halfway through my photography career over the weekend, I did theatre. And then beckoning happened through the film industry. So that's the chronological thing. But my heart was always to stand behind the camera and boss people.
And you know, you boss people, that's a nice one.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Show. I'm Radhika Ramaswamy joining you from Mumbai studios. We also have Divya Vadva joining us from Delhi. Divya, Operation Sindoor politics is only intensifying in the country with Congress asking Prime Minister Modi to stop self-glorification, not use Operation Sindoor for election campaigns. And besides that, in Telangana, BRS turf war out in the open on Telangana Formation Day. Divya.
That's right, Radhika. Also, pro-Kannada protesters warning theatre owners on Kamal Haasan's release. His movie, Do Remember, got released on Thursday. But there seems to be a lot of protests asking theatre owners to take down the film, not to run the show. And also, Ukrainian drone strike. 5 air bases, over 40 aircrafts have been hit, while in Colorado, 6 people have been set on fire, which, the FBI says has been a terror attack. We'll get you that and a whole lot more. Let's get to the headlines. Politics speaks over Operation Sindoor with the opposition pushing for special session. Congress calls for transparency when it comes to the losses as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned, and also accusing the BJP of politicizing the issue and not to make it into an election pitch.
BSF's Wonder Women in Operation Sindoor. NDTV brings you exclusive details on how 7 BSF women defended 2 posts.
And it's K. Kavita versus KTR. BRS war that is speaking with the first family to skip the Telangana statehood day at the headquarters.
Ukraine's biggest drone attack hits 40 Russian aircraft. Zelensky says operation planned next to Russian security headquarters. War escalation shadow on Turkey talks.
And this is Kamal Haasan's language row that is escalating by the day, with pro-Kannada protesters stirring up that protest, asking theatres to not screen